In this video, we're going to be explaining how to solve this quadratic equations problem from the AoPS Algebra 1 homework. The question is, one of the two solutions to the equation 5x squared minus 11x minus 36 equals 0 is x equals 4. What is the other solution? So before we get into this solving process for this question, the first thing we should do is review what the form of a quadratic equation is. So a quadratic equation is any equation of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, where c is a constant term and x is our variable, and a and b are both coefficients of x. So this right here is an example of a quadratic equation, the equation we're trying to solve. It has always equal to 0. Here's our constant term. Here's our linear term. And here's our squared term, or the degree 2 term. Okay, so now that we know what a quadratic equation is, let's go ahead and see if we can solve the question. So we already know one of the solutions. They give us that x equals 4. So the main way that we would solve a quadratic is to factor it, which is basically by pulling out the x factors and then pairing them with constant terms, and then setting each of those binomial factors equal to 0 to find our factorization and roots. So if we know that x equals 4 already, we can kind of kickstart our factorization. Let's go ahead and get this drawn out. So if x equals 4, then that means the binomial, our first binomial, must be x minus 4. Because then if we plug in x equals 4 into here, 4 minus 4 equals 0. Because remember, each of these binomials must always be equal to 0. So this is the only binomial that satisfies our x equals 4 value. So we know one of the binomial terms here. That's a great start. But now we want to know the other one, because we can use that to find the final solution. So how do we do this? Well, how we begin is noticing the constant term here, the coefficient of our x. It's 5 in this case. And so in this situation, we need to find out what we need to multiply x by to get 5x squared. So this is kind of like our blank here. A mystery here that we're trying to fill in. This is a huge question mark that we need to find out what goes in this box. So, what we need to multiply by x to get to 5x squared? Well, for starters, we need another x, because we need to get to an x squared. So to begin with, we need another x, and then we also need a 5, because we need the constant term to become 5. So we know we need a 5x. So that's one of the things we need to put into here. So 5x, because when we multiply the first terms, we're going to get 5x squared. Okay, so that's one part of the mystery. So next, we need to find two numbers that multiply to negative 36. We've got the negative 4 already. Now we just need another constant term over here that will multiply to negative 36 when multiplied with negative 4. So, I mean, this is pretty simple here. There aren't very many numbers left that could complete this equation. The first one that came to mind, you might need to do a little bit of trial and error, but usually the first one that will come to mind is 9, because that's pretty much the only ones that work in this situation. I can't think of any other numbers that work off the top of my head, so I chose 9 to begin with. And we know it must be positive 9, because 9 times negative 4, that's negative 36, has to be negative. Okay, so we've got our completed second binomial here. This is kind of like, we're going to go ahead and test, plug in the values, and factor out this expansion, kind of expand this product here, and see if it satisfies the original quadratic. So, we use a distributive property here. First term, that's 5x squared. Then outer term, that's 9x, positive 9x. Then inner term, negative 20x, is 20. And then last terms, negative 36x. This is all equal to 0. Okay, so from here, we can see, there's no x here. So from here, we can see that we have some like terms we can combine. We've got the 9x and the negative 20x. So what we do here is just a simple problem. 9 minus 20, that's going to be negative 11. as we had up here. So that works. Go ahead and write our simplified form. 5x squared minus 11x minus our 36 equals 0. Okay, so this matches our original equation here, confirming that our factorization is correct. Alright, so what we need to do from here is find the other solution as they asked. So as I mentioned earlier, what we need to do is set each of these binomials equal to 0. We've already done it with the first one because we know x is 4. Now, what we need to do is find what value of x makes this equal to 0. So again, this is another simple equation. You can write it as 5x plus 9 equals to 0. Then we can isolate the 5x. We have 5x equals negative 9. Then to get our x, we divide both sides by 5 to get x equals negative 9 over 5. And that right there is our second solution to this equation. We've got the 4, and we've got the negative 9 over 5. So this is an example of a problem that requires you to find a fractional root of a quadratic. And this is going to show up occasionally in problems because you're going to need to factor the quadratic completely to get to your fractional root here. Alright, so this was a problem that, kind of like a mystery problem that required you to find the other solution given the clue of one of the solutions here, the x equals 4. We then used the clues provided by this solution to complete the factorization and then get to our final answer. Alright, this was a AoPS Algebra 1 homework quadratic equations problem.